Humanity had always been considered a minor player in the galactic arena, a fragile species barely capable of surviving in their own solar system. And yet they persisted, expanding their reach slowly but deliberately, building fleets and colonies that the Galactic Council barely noticed. At first, the alien powers saw them as insignificant, a primitive race whose technological advances were laughable, their military capabilities dismissed as crude and limited, their political structures considered chaotic and unstable. Across the council chambers of the most powerful species in the galaxy, from the crystalline minds of the Karathi to the hive-conscious WRYLO, humans were mocked openly, with bets placed on when they would finally collapse under internal strife or external pressure. In the colonies at the edge of the solar system, however, humans were quietly preparing, refining strategies, building ships with innovations that the Council would never anticipate, training personnel in ways that combined ingenuity, adaptability, and an unpredictable stubbornness that had allowed them to survive countless natural disasters and internal conflicts on their homeworld. Scientists like Eleanor Mason worked tirelessly on propulsion systems that surpassed Council understanding, while military officers, such as Captain Daniel Hart, coordinated exercises that simulated scenarios the Council deemed impossible, including large-scale coordinated attacks against vastly superior fleets. Intelligence networks, built in secrecy across trade routes and minor systems, allowed humans to gather data on alien vulnerabilities, understand the psychology and behavior of the galactic powers better than any diplomat could hope to. As the Council debated the next phase of expansion, arguing over minor disputes and ceremonial protocols, humans were quietly massing fleets, sending reconnaissance probes that returned with detailed schematics of alien ships, tactical data on fleet formations, and environmental conditions on contested planets. The first sign of change came in the outer systems when an unassuming human fleet, traveling under the guise of a diplomatic mission, demonstrated an unexpected capability, neutralizing patrols from multiple species using synchronized attacks that exploited weaknesses the Council had never disclosed. The aliens scrambled, their fleets unprepared for precision, coordination, and relentless adaptability of the humans, who used not only superior strategy but also psychological insight, predicting enemy maneuvers based on decades of observation and simulation. Political leaders on Earth, figures such as President Marcus Lane and Ambassador Sofia Ramirez, had quietly coordinated with the military to ensure that humanity's first contact with major galactic powers was decisive, showcasing strength while avoiding unnecessary civilian casualties, emphasizing deterrence through capability rather than blind aggression. Meanwhile, scientists perfected energy weapons, shielding technologies, and AI-assisted command systems that allowed smaller human fleets to outmaneuver and outgun vessels that dwarfed them in size and firepower. The turning point came when the first major engagement occurred in the Helios Expanse, where a coalition fleet of 3 dominant alien species intended to suppress human expansion. They expected a quick victory, assuming humans would flee or surrender, but what they encountered was an orchestrated ambush, a combination of human ingenuity and raw courage that devastated the alien fleet and left the Council in shock. News of the engagement spread across the galaxy, first as rumors, then as undeniable reports, and suddenly the dismissive laughter that had accompanied humanity's name turned to fear and confusion. The Council convened emergency sessions, arguing over whether this was an anomaly, a fluke, or the emergence of a threat that required immediate attention. Humans, however, were not interested in negotiation or recognition. They were prepared to claim what they had built, to ensure survival and prosperity in a galaxy that had underestimated them at every turn. From the Sol system to the outer colonies, human industry, science, and military might synchronize like a single organism, demonstrating that the combination of creativity, persistence, and sheer stubbornness could overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Alien observers, who had once laughed at human ships, began recording data meticulously, attempting to understand the principles behind human tactics. But the humans had already evolved beyond the Council's expectations, continuously innovating, improvising, and exploiting weaknesses that no traditional analysis could predict. As humanity pushed further into contested space, liberating colonies that had been subjugated or neglected, they revealed not only their military superiority, but also their ethical approach to conquest, refusing to annihilate populations unnecessarily, instead offering protection and cooperation to those willing to join the new human-led order. Within the Council, Fear transformed into paranoia, with debates turning into accusations and alliances faltering, as the realization set in that humanity's rise could not be stopped through conventional means. The underdog had become the dominant force, a species once written off as primitive now demonstrating strategic genius, technological prowess, and an unyielding will that no alien power had anticipated. Humanity had conquered the first threshold of the stars not through sheer numbers alone, but through the synthesis of every strength they had cultivated over millennia: ingenuity, courage, adaptability, and the stubborn refusal to be dismissed. Each human victory, meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed, sent ripples through the galaxy, forcing the Council to reconsider every assumption they had held about the balance of power. Meanwhile, Earth and its colonies flourished under a system that valued merit, cooperation, and innovation, with military, scientific, and political leaders coordinating seamlessly, ensuring that humanity's rise would be sustainable and just, creating a foundation for long-term dominance. As alien observers attempted to mount countermeasures, they found themselves outpaced, outmaneuvered, and outthought, realizing that they were facing a species whose unpredictability was as dangerous as its firepower. The first fleets that had once been dismissed as laughable were now the spearhead of a vast expansion, and the humans who commanded them displayed not arrogance, but the calm confidence born of preparation, intelligence, and an unshakable belief in their own capabilities. By the time the Council could comprehend the magnitude of their miscalculation, humanity had already established strategic footholds across multiple systems, securing resources, allies, and positions that ensured their continued ascendancy. The galaxy, once filled with laughter at humanity's supposed weakness, now watched with wary respect, understanding that the species they had underestimated was no longer an underdog, but a dominant power whose reach and influence would shape the future of every civilization in the stars. Every action, from the calculated strikes of human fleets to the diplomatic maneuvers that accompanied their expansion, served to demonstrate not only their power, but also the depth of their strategic insight, showing that humans could adapt to every challenge and exploit every opportunity with unmatched precision. As humans continued to advance, the Council found itself fragmented, unable to present a unified front, and forced into reactive measures that only highlighted their lack of preparation and understanding of a species that had been underestimated at every turn. Humanity had become the unexpected apex, not through conquest alone, but through the combination of intellect, coordination, resilience, and moral consideration that allowed them to win hearts as well as battles, establishing a foundation for a new era in the galaxy. By the time the first wave of human colonists reached previously unclaimed or contested planets, the galaxy had begun to recognize that the era of underestimating Earth and its inhabitants was over, and any further attempt to suppress or belittle humanity would be met with consequences far beyond anything the Council had previously imagined, marking the beginning of an age where humanity's ingenuity, courage, and perseverance would define the balance of power in the stars forever. The aftermath of humanity's first decisive victory sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy, as species that had once considered themselves the rulers of vast swaths of space scrambled to understand how a seemingly primitive race could achieve what had been deemed impossible. On distant planets, military strategists and scientists pored over battle reports, attempting to reverse engineer the tactics of the human fleets. But they soon realized that much of humanity's advantage came not from superior technology alone, but from the unpredictable combination of creativity, adaptability, and determination that no formula could replicate. On Earth, leaders like Admiral Jonathan Price and General Lila Thompson coordinated the expansion of human influence with meticulous precision, ensuring that every fleet movement, every colony establishment, and every communication with alien powers was executed to maximize both strategic gain and political leverage. Human engineers continued to innovate, refining energy shielding, propulsion systems, and long-range weaponry that allowed relatively small human ships to outmaneuver and destroy alien vessels that dwarfed them in size, creating a tactical advantage that was compounded by the humans' ability to anticipate and adapt to enemy behavior in real time. Meanwhile, intelligence officers such as Daniel Cross and Mei Ling had infiltrated networks across multiple alien civilizations, gaining critical insight into cultural weaknesses, political rivalries, and fleet coordination patterns that allowed humans to strike with precision at the most advantageous moments. In the council chambers of the galaxy's most powerful species, tension and paranoia escalated as members argued over who was responsible for underestimating humanity, while covert meetings and backroom alliances attempted to formulate a plan that could slow or halt human expansion. The humans, however, moved like a coordinated organism, their fleets striking quickly and withdrawing before alien forces could organize, their colonies thriving under systems that balanced resource extraction with long-term sustainability, demonstrating not only military brilliance, but also governance that earned loyalty from local populations. As humanity expanded into contested systems, they faced challenges from hostile species who had once ruled those territories without resistance, but human adaptability and tactical ingenuity ensured that every confrontation ended with victory, often with minimal casualties, as the aliens were repeatedly outmaneuvered and outthought at every turn. Scientists such as Eleanor Mason and Raj Patel developed autonomous fleet command systems that allowed simultaneous engagement on multiple fronts, using advanced predictive algorithms and human intuition to coordinate attacks that left alien commanders struggling to respond. Each engagement, from skirmishes near asteroid belts to full-scale fleet battles in orbital corridors, reinforced the reputation of humans as a species whose combination of intellect, adaptability, and daring defied all previous assumptions. The psychological impact on alien populations was profound. For the first time, they confronted the reality that humans were not merely another species to be dominated, but a force capable of redefining the balance of power across the galaxy. Within the Council, debates turned into accusations and suspicion, as long-standing alliances fractured under the pressure of human advances. An attempt to negotiate or intimidate the humans failed, as Earth and its colonies presented a united front built on foresight, preparation, and ethical governance. Diplomatic envoys such as Ambassador Sophia Ramirez and Minister Thomas Blake navigated delicate negotiations with newly encountered species, offering protection, trade, and cooperation in exchange for allegiance or neutrality, strengthening humanity's position while expanding influence without resorting to unnecessary conflict. As human fleets continue to push into previously unclaimed or contested territories, their ability to adapt to alien technologies, environmental hazards, and unexpected opposition showcase a level of strategic flexibility that alien powers struggled to match, further cementing humanity's reputation as a species whose potential had been vastly underestimated. Reports of victories and strategic maneuvers spread across the galaxy, creating both fear and fascination, as former skeptics began to question the assumptions that had allowed them to dismiss Earth for so long. The first attempt to mount coordinated resistance against human expansion revealed the depth of humanity's preparation, as fleets encountered ambushes, counterattacks, and tactical feints designed to exploit every predictable weakness, demonstrating that humans have studied not only enemy technology, but also enemy psychology and cultural tendencies. Within the core systems of human space, scientists and military officers collaborated seamlessly, ensuring that intelligence gathered from the front lines was immediately applied to fleet design, battle strategy, and colony development, creating a continuous cycle of improvement that kept humans steps ahead of their adversaries. Alien powers that had once relied on overwhelming numbers found themselves unable to match the precision, coordination, and adaptability of human forces, as even massive fleets were systematically outmaneuvered, outgunned, and psychologically pressured into retreat or surrender. Leaders on Earth understood that victory was not only a matter of technology or numbers, but also of strategy, culture, and morale, instilling a sense of purpose and unity across the species that allowed humanity to act decisively where fragmented alien alliances faltered. As humans consolidated their hold over new systems, colonies flourished under governance that emphasized innovation, collaboration, and resource optimization, creating thriving hubs of production and research that further fueled military and technological superiority, making every subsequent human fleet more capable than the last. Intelligence reports revealed cracks in alien command structures, disputes over strategy, and fear-induced errors that humans exploited with precision, using psychological warfare alongside physical force to destabilize opposition without unnecessary destruction. Diplomacy, when employed, reinforced human dominance, as planets and species that had once been neutral or subjugated chose to align voluntarily with Earth, recognizing the strategic and ethical advantages of cooperation with a species that had proven both powerful and capable of fairness. Meanwhile, scientists continued to push the boundaries of what was technologically possible, developing stealth capabilities, advanced energy manipulation, and AI-assisted logistics that allowed humans to sustain operations across multiple systems simultaneously, further overwhelming alien forces who could not keep pace. Each victory reinforced a narrative that humans were no longer the underdog, but the dominant species in the galaxy, capable of strategic brilliance, technological superiority, and moral leadership, creating a new era where the assumptions of galactic power structures were challenged and rewritten by a species that had long been dismissed. As fleets moved deeper into contested regions, alien observers struggled to predict human behavior, as every maneuver incorporated innovation, deception, and precise execution that alien powers could neither anticipate nor counter effectively, leaving entire systems to fall under human influence with remarkable speed. Within human leadership, figures such as President Marcus Lane, Admiral Jonathan Price, and General Lila Thompson maintained coordination across military, scientific, and diplomatic efforts, ensuring that every action reinforced both security and expansion, consolidating influence while minimizing unnecessary conflict. Across the galaxy, once proud civilizations that had laughed at humanity now faced a sobering reality. The species they had underestimated possessed not only strength and technology, but an unwavering determination, adaptability, and vision that rendered prior assumptions obsolete and guaranteed that humanity would continue to shape the future of the stars. Humanity's expansion was no longer a series of isolated victories, but a coordinated campaign, demonstrating to every observer that the underdog had become the apex force in a galaxy that had failed to anticipate its potential, and that any further attempt to oppose him would be met with consequences carefully calculated and executed with unerring precision, ensuring that humanity's conquest of the stars was inevitable and unstoppable. Humanity's rise through the galaxy accelerated as fleets moved with precision, striking at contested systems and alien strongholds with a combination of stealth, speed, and overwhelming tactical intelligence that left the Council scrambling to respond. In sectors where alien species had maintained dominance for centuries, human forces introduced technology and strategy that defied expectations, integrating adaptive AI systems with human intuition to outmaneuver larger fleets, exploit environmental hazards, and anticipate enemy tactics before they could be executed. Scientists like Eleanor Mason and Dr. Raj Patel refined interstellar propulsion and shielding technology, allowing fleets to deploy rapidly across vast distances while maintaining operational readiness, ensuring that no alien force could prepare adequately for humanity's approach. Intelligence operatives embedded across the galaxy provided constant updates, mapping political rivalries, fleet deployments, and weaknesses in command structures, creating a comprehensive understanding of adversary behavior that humans leveraged to devastating effect. Within human command centers, officers coordinated simultaneous engagements across multiple star systems, demonstrating an unprecedented level of organizational skill, using secure communication networks and predictive algorithms to synchronize attacks with near-perfect timing, rendering alien coordination ineffective. As the human fleets engaged in battle, they combined precision strikes with psychological tactics, targeting leadership, supply lines, and communication hubs, demonstrating that humans understood not only warfare, but also the psychological underpinnings of power and control. Across the galaxy, alien species that had once dismissed humanity began to experience the full impact of underestimating a species whose adaptability and strategic depth were unmatched. Even the most technologically advanced civilizations found themselves struggling to maintain cohesion as humans exploited weaknesses, disrupted supply chains, and applied relentless pressure across multiple fronts, creating cascading failures in fleet coordination and morale. Within the Sol system, political and military leadership worked in seamless tandem, with figures such as President Marcus Lane, Admiral Jonathan Price, and General Lila Thompson, ensuring that strategy, logistics, and diplomacy reinforced each other, allowing humans to expand influence while consolidating gains and avoiding unnecessary conflict. Colonies established in newly secured systems flourished under governance that emphasized innovation, resource optimization, and scientific advancement, creating strongholds that supported continued military operations and technological development, making human expansion self-sustaining and resilient. Alien leaders, observing humanity's rapid progression, were forced to reconsider every assumption they had made about the species, realizing that prior dismissals had been catastrophic errors that now threatened their long-term survival and dominance. Across council chambers, debates erupted into chaos as species accused each other of failing to address the human threat, forming temporary alliances that proved fragile under the sustained pressure of human campaigns. Human diplomats and intelligence officers leveraged these fractures, negotiating favorable agreements and securing neutral or allied positions, turning former adversaries into strategic partners or ensuring their neutrality through careful negotiation and demonstration of strength. On the battlefield, human forces employed asymmetric tactics that leveraged their superior adaptability, including hit-and-run engagements, diversionary maneuvers, and surprise attacks, exploiting the rigid doctrines of alien fleets and demonstrating that flexibility and innovation were more powerful than sheer numbers. Scientists and engineers continued to push boundaries, developing advanced energy weapons, stealth capabilities, and AI-driven logistics that allowed human fleets to operate efficiently across multiple systems, maintaining initiative and preventing alien forces from regaining the strategic advantage. The psychological impact on alien populations was profound, as once proud civilizations confronted the reality that humans could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight them across the galaxy, undermining centuries of perceived superiority and instilling a pervasive fear that their dominance could collapse at any moment. Intelligence gathered by human operatives revealed political vulnerabilities, cultural fissures, and leadership disputes, which were exploited strategically to destabilize resistance, creating openings for both military and diplomatic victories that expanded human influence without requiring large-scale destruction. Within human leadership, decision-making was streamlined yet highly effective, ensuring that military, scientific, and political actions were coordinated, allowing humanity to respond to changing conditions faster than alien powers could react, maintaining momentum and minimizing risk. Colonies under human administration became centers of research, production, and culture, supporting fleets and operations while demonstrating that human governance was efficient, adaptive, and capable of integrating diverse populations, winning loyalty from newly incorporated systems. As human forces pushed deeper into contested regions, alien fleets attempted counteroffensives, but were repeatedly outmaneuvered, outplanned, and psychologically pressured into retreat or surrender, showcasing humanity's ability to dominate both strategically and tactically. Diplomatic efforts by humans reinforced dominance, as ambassadors like Sofia Ramirez and ministers such as Thomas Blake negotiated alliances, trade agreements, and protection pacts that strengthened human influence while further isolating resistant species. Every engagement, whether military, diplomatic, or strategic, demonstrated humanity's capacity to integrate intelligence, technology, and leadership into a coherent and unstoppable force, redefining the balance of power in the galaxy. The Council, which had once laughed at humans, now faced internal dissent, fear, and confusion as their previous assumptions proved catastrophically flawed, with some members advocating for accommodation, while others sought desperate measures to resist a species they had underestimated at every turn. Human fleets, guided by experienced commanders and adaptive AI systems, continue to demonstrate initiative and foresight, striking with precision and exploiting weaknesses in alien logistics, tactics, and morale, ensuring that human expansion proceeded with minimal opposition and maximum efficiency. Colonies grew in strategic importance, providing research hubs, production facilities, and population centers that supported sustained campaigns, reinforcing humanity's ability to project power across the galaxy while maintaining economic and logistical stability. Alien species attempted to adapt, developing new technologies, doctrines, and alliances, but the human capacity for rapid innovation, strategic planning, and tactical improvisation consistently outpaced these efforts, ensuring that humans retained initiative and maintained pressure on all fronts. Within Earth's leadership, coordination between military, scientific, and political branches ensured that every action served the broader goal of expanding human influence and securing long-term dominance, creating a unified strategy that left no gaps for alien powers to exploit. Across multiple star systems, humans demonstrated not only military superiority, but also the ability to govern effectively, integrate diverse populations, and maintain morale, creating a model of expansion that combined power, ethics, and strategic foresight, solidifying humanity's position as the dominant force in the galaxy. Every victory, intelligence breakthrough, and diplomatic success reinforced a narrative that humanity had moved from underdog to apex species, challenging centuries of assumptions, reshaping alliances, and redefining the future of interstellar civilization, leaving the galaxy with no doubt that humans will continue to expand, innovate, and dominate with unmatched determination and skill. Humanity's expansion continued at a relentless pace, as fleets moved into previously unclaimed or contested sectors with precision, leveraging years of preparation, strategic insight, and technological superiority to secure every objective efficiently while maintaining minimal casualties. Alien powers, initially dismissive of human capabilities, now scrambled to respond to a force that combined adaptability, innovation, and determination in ways they could neither predict nor counter effectively. On Earth, leaders like President Marcus Lane and Admiral Jonathan Price coordinated with General Lila Thompson and the scientific teams of Eleanor Mason and Raj Patel, ensuring that every operation, from fleet deployment to colony administration, was executed flawlessly and contributed to the broader objective of establishing humanity as a dominant galactic power. Intelligence networks embedded across multiple civilizations provided detailed information on political fractures, fleet movements, and technological capabilities, allowing humans to strike with pinpoint accuracy while avoiding unnecessary confrontation or overextension. Each engagement showcased a combination of human ingenuity and tactical brilliance, from ambushes in asteroid belts to coordinated multi-system attacks that neutralized alien fleets much larger and technologically superior to human forces, highlighting humanity's ability to leverage strategy over brute force. Colonies established in newly secured systems were rapidly developed into centers of production, research, and culture, ensuring that the infrastructure needed to support fleets and sustain expansion was robust, adaptable, and strategically positioned to facilitate further advances. Diplomacy played a crucial role, with ambassadors like Sofia Ramirez and ministers such as Thomas Blake negotiating alliances, neutrality agreements, and trade partnerships that expanded human influence without requiring full-scale military engagement, while demonstrating ethical governance and long-term planning that inspired loyalty among newly incorporated species. Scientists continued to refine propulsion systems, energy weapons, shielding technology, and AI-assisted command networks, ensuring that human fleets could maintain operational superiority across vast distances and respond rapidly to emerging threats or opportunities. Alien species, faced with an opponent whose tactics defied conventional logic, began experiencing panic, mistrust, and internal conflict as humans exploited weaknesses not only in fleet coordination, but also in cultural, political, and leadership structures, destabilizing centuries of assumed dominance. On the battlefield, humans combined conventional and asymmetric tactics with psychological strategies, using feints, misinformation, and targeted strikes to undermine morale, disrupt command, and force enemies into retreat, demonstrating that strategic thinking and adaptability were more powerful than sheer numbers or firepower. Within human leadership, decision-making was streamlined and highly effective, integrating intelligence, military strategy, scientific innovation, and diplomatic efforts into a cohesive approach that ensured sustained momentum and minimized risk, reinforcing humanity's position as the apex power. Colonies thrived under human administration, providing secure bases for military operations, production facilities for fleets, and centers for research and innovation, supporting both offensive campaigns and the long-term sustainability of human expansion, making every victory self-reinforcing and every foothold durable. Alien fleets that attempted coordinated counterattacks repeatedly failed, outmaneuvered by human strategy and technologically disadvantaged despite superior numbers, highlighting the critical importance of human foresight, innovation, and adaptability in every engagement. Intelligence operations continue to provide insight into alien vulnerabilities, from political discord and leadership disputes to technological weaknesses, which were exploited strategically to maximize impact while minimizing unnecessary destruction, reinforcing humanity's ethical and strategic advantage. Human commanders combined intuition, experience, and AI-assisted predictive modeling to execute operations with unmatched precision, ensuring that every maneuver, strike, or strategic decision maintained initiative and left alien forces on defensive, unable to recover or regroup effectively. Diplomatic and psychological tactics further amplified human influence, as species that once resisted or ignored Earth's presence began to align voluntarily, recognizing both the strategic advantages and ethical governance offered by humans, expanding influence without direct military confrontation. Each engagement, settlement, or diplomatic negotiation reinforce humanity's reputation as a species capable of long-term strategic planning, technological innovation, ethical governance, and relentless adaptability, demonstrating a level of competence and coordination previously unseen in galactic history. Alien powers increasingly found themselves reacting rather than initiating. Their attempt to form countermeasures delayed by internal disputes, miscommunication, and the sheer unpredictability of human tactics, allowing humanity to maintain constant pressure and initiative across multiple theaters of operation. Within Earth's leadership, strategic coordination between military, scientific, and diplomatic branches ensured that victories were leveraged for further expansion, infrastructure development, and consolidation of power, creating a system that was both highly resilient and continuously improving, capable of sustaining momentum indefinitely. Across the galaxy, human influence expanded not only through conquest and alliance, but also through innovation, governance, and cultural integration, establishing a model of power that combined military might, intelligence, ethical leadership, and adaptive strategy to maintain dominance and inspire loyalty across a growing network of colonies and allied species. Alien leaders, once confident in their superiority, now face the reality that humans could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight them consistently, creating fear and uncertainty that undermined cohesion, disrupted long-standing alliances, and forced reactive measures that only highlighted human strategic brilliance. Humanity's campaigns demonstrated the integration of every strength they had cultivated over centuries: ingenuity, courage, adaptability, coordination, and ethical decision-making, allowing them to secure systems, neutralize threats, and build infrastructure in ways that alien powers could not counter effectively, solidifying a position as a dominant species in the galaxy. Every victory, settlement, and alliance reinforced the perception that humans were no longer underdogs but apex strategists, innovators, and leaders whose influence would shape the future of interstellar civilization for generations, creating a new era in which the galaxy would be defined by humanity's ascendancy and unparalleled capability to combine military, technological, and diplomatic mastery to achieve sustainable dominance across the stars. Humanity's momentum continued to surge as fleets advanced into systems long controlled by alien powers, demonstrating a level of coordination, innovation, and adaptability that left opposing forces struggling to comprehend and counter their strategies. Alien leaders, once confident in their superiority, now face repeated failures as humans exploited technological gaps, environmental challenges, and cultural weaknesses, executing campaigns with precision and foresight that shattered centuries of assumed dominance. On Earth, leaders including President Marcus Lane, Admiral Jonathan Price, General Lila Thompson, and diplomats like Sophia Ramirez and Thomas Blake oversaw a complex network of operations that seamlessly integrated military strategy, intelligence gathering, scientific advancement, and diplomatic negotiation, ensuring that every action reinforced humanity's overarching objective of galactic ascendancy. Intelligence networks spanning multiple species and systems provided continuous data on fleet movements, political rivalries, and emerging threats, allowing human commanders to anticipate and exploit opportunities before alien powers could respond effectively. Human scientists, engineers, and technicians, led by innovators such as Eleanor Mason and Dr. Raj Patel, refined propulsion, shielding, and energy weapon systems, creating fleets capable of rapid deployment, sustained engagement, and precision strikes that render conventional alien tactics ineffective. The humans' ability to integrate intuition, experience, and predictive AI enabled them to execute simultaneous operations across multiple star systems, neutralizing opposing forces, securing critical resources, and establishing strategic footholds with unmatched efficiency. Colonies in newly liberated or claimed territories flourished under human governance, emphasizing resource optimization, scientific research, infrastructure development, and ethical administration, creating sustainable support networks that reinforce military operations while winning loyalty and cooperation from local populations. Alien species attempted to mount counteroffensives, deploying large fleets and forming temporary alliances to repel human advances, but they were repeatedly outmaneuvered, outgunned, and psychologically destabilized by human strategies that combined deception, diversion, and calculated strikes at command centers, supply lines, and critical infrastructure. Human commanders leveraged cultural insight, intelligence on leadership behavior, and knowledge of alien psychology to predict enemy responses and manipulate decision-making, turning seemingly minor actions into decisive advantages that further accelerated humanity's dominance. Diplomatic efforts complemented military campaigns, as human ambassadors and negotiators engaged with neutral or resistant species, offering protection, trade, and cooperation in exchange for allegiance or neutrality, expanding influence without unnecessary destruction, while reinforcing humanity's reputation as both formidable and principled. Fleet movements were executed with unparalleled precision, coordinating offensive and defensive maneuvers that overwhelmed alien responses, while AI-assisted logistics and command systems ensured operational continuity, rapid adaptation, and efficient resource allocation, allowing humans to maintain initiative across vast distances simultaneously. Every engagement, from skirmishes in asteroid fields to full-scale battles in orbital corridors, highlighted humanity's combination of tactical brilliance, technological innovation, and psychological acumen, creating cascading failures in alien coordination and morale that render conventional countermeasures ineffective. Colonies served as strategic hubs, facilitating research into new technologies, production of advanced vessels, and training of personnel, ensuring that human forces could sustain momentum, expand influence, and respond rapidly to emerging threats across multiple sectors. Alien fleets, despite superior numbers and heavier armaments, were consistently outperformed by human forces that leveraged agility, adaptability, and predictive strategies to exploit weaknesses, disrupt coordination, and induce panic, forcing retreats and capitulations that expanded human control. Leaders on Earth ensured continuous feedback between intelligence, military, and scientific branches, allowing every victory to inform subsequent operations, refine tactics, and improve technological capabilities, creating an iterative system of growth that alien powers could not match. Human diplomacy and psychological operations reinforced this dominance, as species that once resisted human expansion voluntarily aligned, recognizing the strategic, technological, and ethical advantages offered by cooperation with Earth, further isolating hostile factions and expanding influence without additional conflict. Strategic operations incorporated deception, feints, and ambushes, exploiting predictable enemy responses and creating opportunities for decisive engagement, while simultaneously minimizing human casualties and preserving infrastructure, reflecting a balance of efficiency, ethics, and effectiveness that alien powers could not emulate. Intelligence units identified fractures within alien alliances, leadership disputes, and vulnerabilities in command structures, which were exploited to maximize impact and undermine coordinated resistance, creating openings for both military and diplomatic gains that expanded humanity's influence across contested regions. Colonies acted as resilient bases of operations, producing ships, training personnel, conducting research, and supporting logistics, enabling humans to maintain pressure on multiple fronts, sustain campaigns, and continue expansion without overextending resources or exposing critical vulnerabilities. Alien civilizations, confronted with repeated failures, internal dissent, and the realization of humanity's unpredictability, experienced growing fear and uncertainty, undermining cohesion and fostering a sense of inevitability regarding human dominance, as no countermeasure or strategy seemed sufficient to halt the underdog's ascendancy. Humanity's campaigns combined strategy, technology, adaptability, intelligence, diplomacy, and moral consideration, demonstrating a holistic approach to power projection that allowed them to achieve objectives with efficiency, precision, and minimal collateral damage, solidifying their reputation as the galaxy's dominant species. Every victory, colonization effort, and alliance reinforced the narrative that humans were no longer underestimated, but recognized as apex strategists, innovators, and leaders capable of shaping the future of interstellar civilization, with influence and control extending across multiple sectors while continuously expanding further into the stars. As fleets pressed deeper into alien-controlled space, human commanders adapted tactics dynamically, anticipating enemy maneuvers, exploiting environmental advantages, and coordinating multi-system operations that reinforce initiative, maintain momentum, and guaranteed sustained success, leaving alien species unable to recover or effectively counter human advances. Within Earth's leadership, continuous coordination ensured that military, scientific, and diplomatic efforts reinforced each other, creating a unified front that leveraged every strength of the species, while colonies provided strategic depth, production capability, and operational flexibility, ensuring that humanity's rise was unstoppable and sustainable. Alien powers, once confident in their superiority, now face the stark reality that humans had transformed from underdogs into the dominant force, capable of integrating intelligence, technology, strategy, ethics, and adaptability in ways that left the galaxy no choice but to recognize humanity as the apex species, reshaping the balance of power and defining the future of interstellar civilization. Humanity's advance into the deeper reaches of the galaxy became a showcase of coordination, strategy, and unrelenting adaptability, as fleets moved with calculated precision to secure contested systems, neutralize hostile forces, and establish colonies that would support both military and economic expansion. Alien powers, still reeling from earlier defeats, scrambled to respond, deploying fleets and forming alliances in a desperate attempt to halt the human momentum, but every effort was anticipated, countered, or outmaneuvered by humans who had mastered both the art of strategy and the science of rapid adaptation. Command centers on Earth, led by President Marcus Lane, Admiral Jonathan Price, General Lila Thompson, and senior intelligence officers, coordinated simultaneous operations across multiple star systems, integrating real-time intelligence from embedded operatives, fleet reconnaissance, and AI-assisted predictive algorithms that allowed humans to maintain initiative and strike with unerring accuracy. Scientists and engineers, including Eleanor Mason and Dr. Raj Patel, continue to develop advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons, shielding technologies, and fleet coordination networks, enabling human ships to move faster, endure heavier fire, and execute complex maneuvers that alien forces could neither predict nor counter effectively. Intelligence units gathered data not only on fleet positions and technology, but also on political tensions, leadership dynamics, and cultural behavior, which were exploited strategically to destabilize alien coordination, manipulate responses, and maximize the impact of human actions without unnecessary destruction. Every battle demonstrated humanity's ability to combine tactical brilliance, technological innovation, and psychological insight, using feints, ambushes, coordinated strikes, and deception to overwhelm opponents, disrupt command structures, and force retreats that expanded human control over previously contested sectors. Colonies established in newly secured systems became hubs of production, research, and governance, providing logistical support for fleets, centers for innovation, and sustainable administration that reinforce human dominance, while winning loyalty from local populations through fair and efficient governance. Alien fleets attempted to mount resistance through combined operations and technological countermeasures, but human forces consistently exploited weaknesses, adapted rapidly to emerging threats, and maintained pressure across multiple theaters, ensuring that no alien counteroffensive achieved strategic success. Diplomacy complemented military campaigns, as human negotiators like Sophia Ramirez and Thomas Blake engaged neutral or undecided species, offering protection, trade, and collaboration in exchange for allegiance or neutrality, expanding influence and consolidating power while further isolating resistant factions and limiting conflict. Human commanders leveraged integrated intelligence, predictive modeling, and operational experience to execute complex multi-system operations with precision, coordinating attacks, resource allocation, and logistical support simultaneously to maintain the initiative and ensure continuous success against alien forces. Colonies served not only as strategic footholds, but also as centers for innovation, training, and production, enabling humanity to sustain campaigns across vast distances, maintain fleet readiness, and expand influence efficiently, creating a self-reinforcing system of power projection that alien species could not match. Psychological tactics and targeted strikes further amplified human advantage, undermining morale, sowing confusion, and exploiting leadership vulnerabilities among alien civilizations, creating cascading failures that accelerated human expansion while minimizing unnecessary casualties. Leadership on Earth ensured seamless coordination between military, scientific, and diplomatic branches, enabling rapid adaptation, continuous improvement, and effective decision-making that leveraged every advantage, maintained momentum, and minimized risks while consolidating newly acquired systems. Alien powers faced growing fear, mistrust, and internal conflict as repeated defeats and strategic surprises exposed the limits of their planning, the rigidity of their doctrines, and the unpredictability of human tactics, leaving them unable to mount effective resistance and increasingly reliant on reactionary measures. Human campaigns demonstrated the integration of strategic foresight, technological superiority, ethical governance, and adaptability, showcasing a species capable of sustaining expansion, securing systems, and projecting power efficiently while fostering cooperation and loyalty among newly incorporated populations. Each victory, intelligence breakthrough, and diplomatic engagement reinforced humanity's dominance, solidifying perception that they had moved from underdogs to apex species, reshaping alliances, destabilizing old hierarchies, and creating an era in which their influence and capability were undeniable across the galaxy. Fleet movements continued to exploit environmental factors, tactical opportunities, and cultural knowledge, ensuring that human operations maintained initiative, achieved objectives with precision, and forced alien powers into continuous reactive postures, unable to regain strategic equilibrium. Colonies acted as resilient nodes in a network of power, providing infrastructure, production, research, and logistical support for ongoing operations, enabling rapid reinforcement, fleet replenishment, and sustained territorial control, while promoting integration and loyalty among local populations. Alien civilizations confronted the reality that humans could adapt, innovate, and execute strategy faster than any previously encountered species, forcing recalibration of doctrine, technology, and alliances, yet failing to close the gap created by humanity's superior combination of intellect, adaptability, and foresight. Diplomacy, psychological strategy, and ethical governance further strengthened human influence, as species that once resisted now recognize the strategic, technological, and moral advantages of alignment with Earth, expanding the human network without unnecessary conflict, while consolidating gains across multiple systems. Every operation reinforced the perception that humans were no longer the underdog, demonstrating a species capable of integrating intelligence, technology, strategy, ethics, and adaptability into a unified approach that redefined power structures, reshaped alliances, and dictated the trajectory of interstellar civilization. Humanity's dominance became self-reinforcing, as victories, colonies, and alliances created a system in which strategic initiative, technological innovation, and sustainable governance ensured continuous expansion, maintained operational advantage, and prevented alien powers from mounting effective resistance, solidifying Earth's position as the apex species in the galaxy. Across multiple theaters, human forces continue to outmaneuver, outthink, and outfight alien fleets, exploiting intelligence, tactical innovation, and psychological insight to achieve objectives decisively, maintaining momentum and demonstrating that their rise from underdog to dominant species was both deliberate and unstoppable. Leadership coordination, advanced technology, and integrated strategy ensured that humanity's expansion proceeded efficiently, with every success building on a last, infrastructure supporting further operations, colonies sustaining fleets and research, and alliances consolidating influence, creating a robust framework for long-term galactic dominance. Alien civilizations, confronted with the consistency, adaptability, and strategic depth of human forces, began to recognize that their prior assumptions had been catastrophically flawed, with no foreseeable means of reversing humanity's rise, leaving them to react, adapt, and negotiate in ways that only reinforced the humans' initiative and power. Humanity's campaigns demonstrated that underdogs could become apex species not by chance, but through relentless preparation, innovation, strategic thinking, and ethical consideration, creating a model of expansion and influence that combined military, scientific, and diplomatic mastery to reshape the future of the galaxy permanently. Every victory, colonization effort, and diplomatic success reinforced the understanding that humans had moved beyond the realm of underestimation, securing their position as a species whose adaptability, ingenuity, and coordination would define the balance of power across the stars for generations to come, ensuring that humanity's conquest of the galaxy was inevitable, sustained, and total. As humanity's influence spread into the core regions of the galaxy, the final illusions of alien superiority began to collapse, replaced by a growing recognition that the balance of power had shifted permanently and irreversibly. Fleets once stationed to intimidate rivals now withdrew or repositioned defensively as human task forces advanced with confidence, guided by intelligence that mapped not only military assets but political instability, economic dependence, and leadership fractures within alien civilizations. On Earth, President Marcus Lane and his senior advisors reviewed constant streams of data from across human space, adjusting long-term strategy to ensure that expansion remained sustainable, controlled, and aligned with humanity's broader vision rather than reckless conquest. Admiral Jonathan Price and General Lila Thompson coordinated operations that no longer focused solely on defeating enemy fleets, but on dismantling the structures that allowed resistance to persist, targeting logistics networks, command hierarchies, and economic choke points with surgical precision. Human scientists continued to refine technologies that gave fleets unmatched endurance and flexibility, allowing ships to operate independently for extended periods while remaining fully integrated into a unified command network, making surprise and coordination the defining features of human warfare. Alien powers attempted one final consolidation, forming a grand coalition intended to present a united front against Earth. But the alliance was built on fear rather than trust, and human intelligence identified fractures almost immediately. Through carefully timed actions, humans exploited those divisions, offering selective truces, protection agreements, and economic incentives to coalition members whose loyalty was uncertain, weakening the alliance before a single major engagement occurred. When confrontation finally came, it unfolded not as a decisive battle the aliens had envisioned, but as a sequence of controlled encounters in which human forces isolated, overwhelmed, and neutralized coalition fleets piece by piece, denying the opportunity to leverage their numerical advantage. Colonies near the front lines played a critical role, supplying fleets, repairing vessels, and serving as intelligence hubs that fed real-time data into command networks, ensuring that human forces always acted with superior awareness and preparation. The psychological impact of these defeats rippled through alien societies, eroding confidence in leadership and fueling dissent as populations questioned how centuries of dominance had unraveled so quickly against a species once dismissed as irrelevant. Human diplomats capitalized on this uncertainty, engaging local leaders, commercial guilds, and regional authorities to offer stability, protection, and inclusion within a human-led framework that emphasized order, growth, and mutual benefit rather than exploitation. As more systems aligned voluntarily, resistance became increasingly isolated, confined to regimes that relied on rigid control and outdated doctrines that proved ineffective against human adaptability. Military commanders adapted tactics dynamically, shifting from aggressive advances to containment and stabilization where appropriate, demonstrating that humanity's goal was not endless destruction, but long-term control and security. Scientists and engineers continued to innovate even as dominance became clear, driven by a cultural instinct to prepare for threats not yet visible, ensuring that human fleets remained generations ahead of any potential challenger. Within alien councils and ruling bodies, debates turned from how to defeat humanity to how to survive within a galaxy reshaped by human power, with former rivals now competing for favorable treatment, trade access, and political recognition from Earth. Human governance structures scaled efficiently, integrating new systems without collapsing under administrative strain, proving that their strength extended beyond the battlefield into logistics, law, and societal organization. Fleets once built purely for war were now equally tasked with enforcement, protection, and rapid response, maintaining order across vast regions while deterring rebellion through presence rather than constant violence. The narrative of humanity as conquerors evolved into one of humanity as architects of a new galactic order, not through propaganda, but through consistent action that demonstrated reliability, restraint, and overwhelming capability when challenged. Alien populations began to adapt culturally, economically, and politically to human standards, not because they were forced, but because alignment brought stability, access to technology, and relief from centuries of predatory power structures. Resistance cells and rogue fleets continued to emerge, but they were swiftly contained through intelligence-driven operations that neutralized threats before they could escalate, reinforcing perception that opposing humanity was futile. On Earth, long-term planning committees shifted focus from expansion to consolidation, investing in infrastructure, education, and interstellar governance frameworks designed to manage a galaxy that now revolved around human decision-making. Military leaders understood that true victory was not measured by the number of battles won, but by the absence of future wars, and adjusted strategy accordingly, prioritizing deterrence, intelligence dominance, and rapid intervention over brute force. As human influence stabilized entire regions, trade routes reopened, piracy declined, and technological exchange accelerated, further entrenching Earth's position as the central pillar of galactic civilization. Alien historians began to record the rise of humanity not as a sudden anomaly, but as the inevitable result of a species forged by constant struggle, innovation under pressure, and a refusal to accept imposed limitations. The underdog narrative faded, replaced by a clear understanding that humanity's ascent was neither accidental nor temporary, but the product of deliberate preparation, unity of purpose, and unmatched ability to adapt faster than any rival. Across the galaxy, leaders, citizens, and observers alike recognized that the age of fragmented dominance had ended, and a new era had begun under a species that had proven capable of wielding power without losing control, shaping the future with calculated resolve rather than blind ambition. Humanity no longer needed to prove its strength through constant conflict, because its presence alone redefined what power meant. And as systems stabilized and alliances solidified, the galaxy prepared to face a future where human strategy, innovation, and leadership set the standard by which all others would be measured. The final phase of humanity's rise unfolded not with a single dramatic battle, but with a quiet and undeniable consolidation of power that reshaped the galaxy at every level: political, military, economic, and cultural. Systems that had once resisted now operated under treaties and frameworks designed on Earth, not because they were forced at gunpoint, but because resistance had become irrational in the face of overwhelming stability, security, and opportunity. Human fleets no longer advanced in conquest formations, but in patrol and stabilization patterns, their presence enough to deter conflict, piracy, and rebellion across vast regions of space. On Earth, President Marcus Lane addressed representatives from dozens of species, outlining a future where humanity would act as guarantor of order, protector of trade, and arbiter of disputes, a role earned not through rhetoric, but through years of decisive action and demonstrated restraint. Admiral Jonathan Price and General Lila Thompson oversaw the transition of military doctrine from expansionary warfare to long-term dominance management, focusing on deterrence, rapid response, and intelligence superiority to ensure that no emerging threat could gain momentum. Human scientists, including Eleanor Mason and Raj Patel, continued to push technological boundaries, not in preparation for imminent war, but to ensure that humanity would always remain ahead of any potential challenger, driven by a deep cultural instinct to prepare for the worst even in times of peace. Colonies across the galaxy matured into interconnected hubs of production, research, and governance, bound together by standardized systems that allowed for efficient coordination while respecting local autonomy, proving that human administration could scale without collapsing into chaos. Alien governments adapted to this new reality, restructuring their political systems to align with human-led frameworks, prioritizing cooperation, transparency, and stability over the rigid hierarchies that had once defined galactic power. Trade flourished under protected routes enforced by human patrols. Economy stabilized and technological exchange accelerated, creating prosperity that further reinforced acceptance of humanity's leadership. Resistance, once fueled by pride and denial, dwindled into isolated incidents quickly resolved through intelligence-driven operations that neutralized threats before they could escalate, reinforcing the understanding that challenging humanity was not heroic but futile. Cultural exchange deepened as alien populations adopted human technologies, legal concepts, and strategic thinking, while humans absorbed alien knowledge, art, and scientific insights, creating a hybrid galactic culture anchored by human values of adaptability, problem-solving, and resilience. Historians across multiple civilizations began documenting the rise of humanity not as a brutal conquest, but as a systemic transformation, where a once-dismissed species identified weaknesses in the existing order and replaced it with something more coherent, stable, and sustainable. Within former galactic councils, debates shifted entirely from opposition to participation, as species competed for influence within human-led institutions rather than against them. Earth became the undeniable center of decision-making, its policies shaping interstellar law, security standards, and expansion protocols that defined the future trajectory of civilization. Human military academies trained not only human officers but allied species, spreading doctrines of flexible strategy, decentralized command, and adaptive thinking that further entrenched human influence at every level of power. The underdog narrative survived only in archived records and educational materials, a reminder how catastrophically wrong the galaxy had been in dismissing a species forged by hardship, competition, and constant adaptation. Humanity had not conquered the stars through blind aggression, but through preparation, intelligence, unity, and the refusal to be constrained by expectations imposed by others. As decades passed, the galaxy stabilized into an era where large-scale war became increasingly unthinkable, not because conflict had vanished, but because humanity had made the cost of destabilization impossibly high. Alien leaders taught their successors a single consistent lesson drawn from history: never underestimate humans, not because they are inherently violent, but because they are relentless in preparation, ruthless in efficiency when forced to fight, and pragmatic enough to build lasting systems once victory is achieved. From the smallest trade outpost to the most advanced core world, the presence of humanity shaped daily life, governance, and security, quietly reinforcing an order that had replaced chaos with structure. Humanity's fleets continued to evolve, their commanders vigilant but measured, understanding that dominance was not a moment but a responsibility that demanded constant attention and discipline. In the end, the galaxy did not remember the exact battle where humanity became supreme, because there was none, only a long sequence of decisions, innovations, and strategic moves that made their dominance inevitable. The species once dismissed as insignificant had become the foundation upon which galactic civilization now rested, not through fear alone, but through competence so overwhelming that no alternative made sense. Humanity had begun as the underdog, underestimated and mocked, but by refusing to accept the limits imposed upon them, they had conquered the stars not just militarily, but structurally, intellectually, and culturally, ensuring that their influence would endure long after the echoes of the last battle faded into history, and the galaxy moved forward under an order shaped, protected, and ultimately defined by human hands.